Hey everyone, today I want to post an updated version of my coming out story. I originally posted one about 7 years ago, and I feel I'm a lot more comfortable and relaxed that I can do a better version of this. So here goes. I grew up in Johannesburg in South Africa in the 90s and the early 2000s. And back then, there wasn't much visibility of gay people. I didn't even know that gay people existed until I was in my teenage years. But I always felt that I was different. There was something about me that I couldn't articulate, that I didn't understand, that I felt different to the other boys that I grew up with and that I went to school with. Um, but yeah, there was always that desire to conform, like, you would avoid feminine mannerisms because they'd be like, oh, that's girly when you were thing. And, as I grew up and, as I entered puberty and everything, there was a more, like, specific kind of change. Guys at my school and whatever would be like, oh, that chick's hot, or they would talk about, like, their sexual fantasies and stuff, but I just, like, I can't relate to this. And I didn't really understand why. And I don't know, I mean, eventually, obviously, I knew that there were gay people around, but I started to realize that when I would think about, like in a sexual fantasy or, thinking about having sex with someone, I would always focus more on the guy than on the chick in this fantasy in my mind. Or if I was thinking, like, if I was, walking down, on a beach with, someone, it would always be, the guy would always be the more prevalent sort of story in my mind. So, I mean, I went through, I think 2006 was kind of a difficult year for me because I was kind of like, I know that I'd have this sexual attraction to men, but maybe I'm bisexual. And I'll go through, like, no, I'm gay, I'm not gay, gay, not gay. And then it was at about 2007, about February of 2007, that I realized to myself, it was actually, I still remember this. It was very late at night, and I was like, no, I'm definitely gay. So that's when you come out to yourself, and that was kind of a relief that I don't have to do this anymore, but it was replaced by this burden of, I live in a society, a world that hates gay people, and I don't kind of like being gay myself, but I'm going to have to kind of, get used to that. And part of that, you have kind of like a grieving process. I think we all grow up like we have a fantasy when we're a kid, we're going to get married, we're going to have kids, and I had to let go of that. So the next couple of years were very difficult. I withdrew socially. I became very introverted and more introverted than normal. And my parents became very worried. They actually sent me to a couple of psychologists because they thought I was like going to be a lunatic or something. But it was actually because I'm deeply in the closet and I just couldn't. It was like this deep nuclear kind of secret that was kept away from the rest of the world, and I didn't know how to tell people this. For me, the thing that really helped a lot was, I mean, I used to watch Queer as Folk. God, that's a story for another day. But I used to also watch a lot of YouTube videos, and that's kind of the reason I'm doing this now. It helped me a lot seeing, actual gay people. Yeah, a lot of them lived in the US, but that you can overcome this. You will come out and things will be better. But it was always like, that's you. Like, my situation is different. Mine's unique. I'm not like them, and this to me, there was this wide gulf between, you know, how I felt and what these people were projecting out into the world. I mean, in our family, we were like born again Christians. I'm the only son out of three sisters, so there was a lot of expectations placed on me. My parents really wanted a son, and so it was kind of like this. Well, now I'm going to fail my parents because now they're not going to have grandkids. So that was always a very heavy thing for me to deal with, that shame and that guilt of being, what I'm doing, I'm going to hell. This is not the kind of Christian, pious life that I would like to lead. And it was kind of letting go of that took a lot of time. So eventually in about 2011, I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I am miserable. I cannot function at school. My grades are terrible. Everything just feels like a fuck up, and this is hell on earth. And I'd rather come out and deal with whatever fucking shit that entails than keep doing this and playing the charade. Because, I mean, I could pass for straight, but to an extent. So, my dad's sister happens to be lesbian, which helps, and she works at a university in Johannesburg. So, I think it must have been May or June of 2011, I went to go speak to her. And I decided this is the day I'm going to come out to her. And we were sitting in her office and we were chatting and we were talking, and I think went on for hours. And I was like, you got to tell her this. You need to tell her this. And then eventually we got to the point where I was kind of like I was going to have to leave at some point. I was like, and she was about to get up. I was like, I'm gay. And she was like, I know. And it was kind of like, I was hoping for a bit more drama. I thought you could be a bit more shocked. But then we started talking and we chatted, and she's like, yeah, we kind of, her and her girlfriend, now wife, said, you know, that they kind of figured out that I was probably gay. And then, you know, so, but she was obviously the first person that I thought I could tell, and spoke about, well, I'm very terrified of coming out to my mom because my mom's very homophobic and whatever. My dad said, well, and asked about my dad, and she says, no, he's a lot more tolerant than you probably would think he is. He's a lot more, you know, supportive and stuff. So, you know, for another year, I think every gay man remembers when they came out. So eventually, and I don't know what triggered this, but on the 5th of June 2012, I couldn't say the words "I'm gay" to my mom. So I actually wrote it on a piece of paper, folded it and gave it to her and ran out. I worked in the afternoon, so I was going to go drive to work. And she said, no, Peter, come back. She came through the door as I was just starting up my car, and she was like, so is this true? Are you really gay? And I'm like, yes, Mom, I'm gay. And she was like, well, how do you know? It's just like, you know, I've always known. So I can't remember verbatim what we said, but yeah, it was kind of, and then she told everyone. She told my dad, and I think she told all my sisters. So it was kind of like, they probably know, and I just want to talk about it. It was very awkward for those next couple of months, because my mother was like, well, you're going to end up with AIDS or something. And she was like, well, I won't have any kids. So I was like, Mom, I never really wanted to have kids anyway, so I don't know why that's a disappointment. I'm kind of relieved I won't be able to have children. You know, you can have a surrogate, but that aside. My dad, we never really, even now, we don't really talk about it. I don't think he's homophobic, it's just my dad's the kind of person, he was kind of an army guy, and he just didn't know how to, even with my sisters, talking about relationships and stuff, I don't think he often knows how to communicate with his kids, so he was kind of, it was kind of a thing we didn't really talk about. But later years, actually, in 2018, I think he's like, I don't actually know anything about your life. So we actually he wanted to see my therapist, so we actually sat and we spoke, and he's like, I really wish you to know more about your life, and I would like you to be in a relationship with somebody. And I was like, well, you know, I actually was in a relationship for a couple of months, but you know, but I didn't talk to you about most of these things because you never really were there when it mattered, at least to me. So that was kind of, my therapist kind of was like, oh God, she could see I was ready. She told me that actually he was tearing up a bit. So I think, yeah, but my mum has always been a bit prejudiced with the gay stuff. So I kind of had to accept that we'd never be able to have a really close relationship after this. Well, I was very close to my mom more so than my dad. So it was difficult, but I kind of just accepted the fact that, you know, she's never really going to be happy with this and that. She once said, oh, I accept you're gay. And I was like, no, you don't really accept that I'm gay. You kind of tolerate it. I eventually had to get to the point where I said to her, like, we don't talk about sexual stuff because you can't handle this in a mature way. When she asked me, like, she kind of like asked me, like, how do you know if you're gay if you haven't had sex with a woman? So I literally did say this to her. I said, well, did you dive into muff before you figured out you were straight? So she's like, no. So I didn't have to do that either. So yeah, I think over the preceding years, I mean, my family knows. I don't really talk about it with people at work and stuff, and maybe that's something I should do, but yeah, I just generally don't. But if there's anything, if someone was watching this, what would you tell us if I had to say something to myself a decade ago, or to someone else, if you're asking, you know, should I come out and whatever? The answer is yes, and my regret is not coming out. It's actually, if I wish I'd have come out sooner. It was, you know, 3 or 4 years, or almost 5 years of unnecessary hell for nothing, and it screwed up my life for a large part, and I'm still dealing with the legacies of that. You know, your people will surprise you. they often know or they suspect that you're gay or that there's something up. And to be honest with you, for a lot of people, it's a relief. You're not on drugs. You're not part of it. You're not part of some sort of gang or something. So, they're kind of like, oh, your parents. You do get stories still of people being kicked out of their homes, people being beat up by their parents and stuff. But for the most part, if you live in a Western country, it's kind of rare for that to happen. And you know what? You don't realize how much of a psychological toll it takes on you being in the closet, but it really, really screws with your head. And yeah, there's never really a right time to say anything, and telling people in the world that you're gay is one of those things. I can't obviously tell you when's the appropriate time. There could be good times or bad times for you. I definitely would say don't tell your parents while they're driving you somewhere, operating heavy machinery. But other than that, yes. I mean, I do have moments where, I don't hate being gay, but, that society's reaction and treatment of gay people can be a bit, it can be a bit draining. But I've kind of, my attitude towards being gay has shifted to kind of like, if someone's homophobic, I'm like, well, they're just fucking ignorant and I don't actually care. Whereas before it would trigger this response to me like, oh, this is wrong, this is unnatural or whatever. I'm like, no, I mean, they're just fucking stupid, who cares? I mean, so it's kind of like that, like, I don't feel the need to impress people anymore. So yeah, other than that, I don't know what else to say. But, it does get better. It really fucking does get better. I can promise you that much. I never thought it would get better, but it really does. And it will get better for you too. But it doesn't feel like that at the time. Coming out can be nerve-wracking. It can be hell on earth. But once you do it and once you get through it, it just gets slowly and surely gets better and better over time. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this is informative and useful and not boring. And I will see you next time. So bye-bye.